Welcome to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and tonight I am delighted to be joined. You were just talking about being nervous, and I'm fluffing my lines. I'm delighted to be joined by Ewan Martin, who is a prolific commenter on the Acsom Bulletin, as well as the match days. And you came in a couple of months ago now to see the studio and get involved and do a wee bulletin. And it went so well that you have been asked back. So here you are for your second appearance on A Celtic State of Mind, Ewan. How have things changed since we last spoke? Because I think things have got a bit better for Ange Postecoglou's side.
Yeah, big time. I mean, when we spoke, that was just before the January transfer came in.
Mm-hmm.
So the Japanese boys, O'Reilly coming in, is just the way we're playing now.
I know.
I mean, how good is it?
It's so enjoyable.
Oh, it's brilliant.
And by the way, what I need to say here is that I got a phone call. If anybody follows my ramblings on Twitter, I did put this out yesterday, but I was just talking to you and about the style of play. Now, my point of reference, and you might actually show some of these programmes, are kind of like watching the Centenary team. That's my first team that I say that's the Celtic team that I felt part of. And I love the free-flowed nature of that team, and there's been teams since then. Tommy Burns' side always comes up in conversations when you're talking about style and playing the Celtic way. And there's a whole discussion around what is the Celtic way. But anyway, I got a phone call yesterday from someone I hadn't spoken to in a long, long time. And he used to be my football coach about 30 years ago, Ewan. And he was talking about the fact that this is one of the most entertaining Celtic sides he has ever seen. So if you're watching Mick Hutton, it was lovely to speak to you, Mick from High Valleyfield in Fife. Mick, you'll correct me because you've got my phone number and you can correct me, I believe, was at all three European finals. So I don't know how many Celtic fans out there who can say that they were at all three finals, Ewan, but Mick was one of these fans who started going to watch Celtic in the 1950s. So when somebody comes along and says, you know what, Paul, I've watched Celtic since the 50s, this is one of the most entertaining football sides I've seen in the hoops. You kind of stand up and take notice of that, Ewan. And I know I don't want to get, I don't want to go over the top with this because we've only seen it for a small period of time.
Aye.
But in terms of the style in which we've been playing recently, it is one of the most entertaining sides I've seen. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, totally. The whole team, the way we play from the back to the front, the way the players rotate, the pace, the energy, it's just total domination, and it's a joy to watch. I mean, buzzing. First time in a long time I've buzzed so much. Just like even tonight, the excitement to see this game tonight. Mm-hmm. You're thinking, wow, because you know it's going to be high octane, fast, good flowing football. And the goals are starting to come because before that, when we last spoke, that was the one aspect that wasn't working so much. We weren't being clinical. Mm-hmm. We'd create the chances, but we weren't scoring. But now the goals are coming.
Yeah.
And actually, I mean, we could have been scoring more goals. I mean, the Rangers game, 3-0 half time. Mm-hmm. All right, you can't complain. I mean, it was a fantastic occasion, but that second half, if we just put the foot down a bit more, we could have really destroyed them. But still, yeah, I mean, it's great football. I mean, look at all the signs we've made under Ange. They're all hitting the ground running. Mm-hmm. Great players, great to watch. I mean, normally when you talk about, right, in a team, you've maybe got 2 or 3 players, you think, wow, they're great.
Yeah.
But now you can actually go through the whole 11.
I know.
Every one of them are magic.
This is the thing that we were talking about, certain players dropping out, Ewan, and being replaced by, for example, there's been a few examples of that. So Rogic drops out, O'Reilly comes in. Now, you could argue and debate until you're blue in the face as to who's the best option. But what you've got there are 2 supremely talented footballers, high quality footballers. And you look at, for example, the situation with Juranovic, which at the moment, unless anyone can tell us different in the comment section, we're unaware of why Juranovic isn't in the squad tonight. But what happens is he drops out. You bring in a boy who last season, I don't think anyone would have really wanted him in as an emergency right back. But you've seen his performances, and Tony Ralston this season has been a revelation. We've spoken so much about him in the comment section. And like you say, you can go through every single position almost and have that kind of conversation. Okay, perhaps the centre-half position is up for debate. You know, if one of the guys drop out, is the standard dropping a fair bit? If Taylor drops out, yeah, we've got Scales. He's relatively untested. He's played a few games. But you'd be confident, if Taylor didn't make it tonight, you'd be confident that Scales could come in against Aberdeen at Pittodrie and perform.
I think in the left bank, God, his name's right in my head now. Left back.
Bolingoli, Taylor.
Greg Taylor. Right in my head. No, he's actually been really, really good of late. I mean, I think a lot of fans kind of think, oh, is he good enough? He's not Kieran Tierney. But honestly, see the last 3-4 games, I think he's been brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think he's come on leaps and bounds under Ange. I think every player. It's almost like, going back to the BR, Ben and Rodgers time, but he got the best out of what was there, and Ange's doing the exact same.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, all the players, I mean, Tom Roderick, you're now getting 90 minutes. I know he's on the bench today, but 90 minutes constantly. Mm-hmm. And his work effort is brilliant. He's a joy to watch. I mean, at the moment, he's probably like my favourite out of them all.
We spoke, Ewan, about the turnaround in certain players. Ralston, had he left last season or at the beginning of this season, no one would have batted an eyelid, right? And that was a shame because he come in as a 17-year-old. Mm-hmm. He was a contemporary of the aforementioned Kieran Tierney. So you're never going to, he was on the right, Tierney's on the left, seen them playing a few games together. You're never going to live up to what Tierney did at Celtic. But he stuck around and he had to prove time and time again from Ronnie Deila, through Brendan Rodgers to Neil Lennon, John Kennedy, and now to Ange Postecoglou. And he stuck around and he is now fulfilling his early potential. And you look at the reasoning behind it, because Neil Lennon couldn't get a tune out of him.
No.
You know, he didn't play under John Kennedy. We had John Joe Kenny, of course, who had the number 2 shirt, as I still call it, the number 2 shorts even. You then look at Beaton on the bench tonight. We're getting some of the best football, some of the best performances out in near Beaton that we've ever seen. And of course, the star and prime example of it is Tommy Roderick. And someone pointed out today that it's great that Ange calls him Tommy, because I've been calling him Tommy for ages. I don't know why I call him Tommy. It's not like I know him. But I also love the way that it's as though everybody's in it together. What I mean by that is Tom Roderick standing there getting interviewed. And I've watched the interview time and time again because he doesn't do many interviews, Ewan. And he puts the media team right in their place when they're talking about, basically asking the question, can Celtic handle the pressure of being top?
Aye.
You know
what's great about that comment? One, when I was watching it, you're like, come on, get in there, Tommy boy.
Yeah.
Tell them how it's done. And at the same time, that's going to really anger them. Mm-hmm. They'll be, because, going back to the game against Rangers, the media and them, that lot, they didn't see it coming.
No.
They generally didn't think we were that good. And it's really shocked them, and I'm loving it.
You mentioned, though, and we spoke about it out there as well, Ewan, that game was 3 going on 5 quite easily. That's how dominant it was. And not just dominant off possession, but the chances in the first half. There was 4 decent saves.
The overall play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Rangers couldn't even get close to us.
Nah.
We destroyed them. I mean, like destroyed. I mean, you go through the years of the big victories, the 6-2, with the Larson chip, the Moravcik's 5-1 game, and even under Brendan Rodgers when we battered them 5-0. Mm-hmm. That kind of first half performance is up there.
Yep.
Big time.
You dropped me a text after the game and you were spot on. These are the big games that you look upon as being the most dominant, wins and victories against Rangers.
Yeah,
pre and post 2012.
Yeah, I mean, it was just so one-sided. Mm-hmm. I mean, great.
And maybe I'm getting greedy, but I did 1 and 5 and 6.
Yeah, well, we all did
last Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Let's run through the teams and we'll have a wee chat about some of the comments coming in relation to Jordan Traynor. No Juranovic. So that was the biggest surprise, wasn't it?
That's a shame.
Yeah.
I'm taking he's got a knock because we're talking off air beforehand, but like, how good is Juranovic? And what I said to you said, well, that's a kind of to say this, but what other fullback, like a right back who can play just as well on the left almost, as dynamic and as good, as solid as he was, I can only give him the highest compliment to say he's very Danny McGrain-esque. it's a bold statement to make, but from what I've seen of him so far, I think he's that good. I think he's class, absolute class.
And we spoke about it earlier because if you ever utter the words Danny McGrain or Paul McStay or Dalglish or Jinky, people think straight away, oh, you're talking nonsense.
Aye.
But when you look at the adaptability, right and left, like you say, the overlapping nature, he's played comfortable on the ball, wherever he is in the park. And
to me, it was just a way against Rangers, against Ryan Kent. He just had him in his back pocket. Kent thinks he's this great player because he's playing in the Scottish game. He can do his wee tricks and it works. No, Janovic just had him. Just easily had him. It was brilliant.
Yeah, it was brilliant. And what I also enjoy, Jungle Line comes in, probably a hamstring. Yeah, you're probably right, to be fair, because the amount of hamstring injuries we've had this season. But we also spoke about this, and it's not a theory as such, it's just an observation, which is that we were working with a group, Ange was working with a group of players under a level of intensity that, they previously had not been used to. So they're adapting, but they've got the pre-season under their belt, Ewan. So guys like Rasmussen been at the club for a long time. They're getting the pre-season under their belt with Ange. Coming up to December, January time, coming up to League Cup final time, I think these guys who had been there from the beginning of Ange's reign had adapted to his training and the intensity of the 90-minute game. But what's happened, obviously, is we've had other players who were out of the picture through injury. They've then come in and they're having to get back up to speed. So I don't think we've got James Forrest up to that level yet.
No,
and you can see it. So I don't think it's as simple as what some people have said in relation to James Forrest. He's lost a yard, he's done this and that. I think what's happened is everybody else is up there in terms of, meeting that bar that Ange has set. And James is not there yet. And then we bring in new players and they're probably not there yet. Although when you look at Hatate and his performances, you wouldn't know it.
Well, Ange is saying Hatate is not there yet. So can you imagine how good he's going to be once he is there?
It's mouthwatering. That prospect, I don't know when it's going to click. But I think the example that was used time and time again was Jurgen Klopp going to Liverpool and how it took several months, maybe half a season, to get everybody up to speed. So you were kind of thinking with that in mind, if that's the case, you're expecting Celtic to be firing on all cylinders come December. But we had such an injury issue, and these guys are now coming in to get built up, and the new signings are the same. If this was to finally click, if it hasn't already, and we're getting told it's not already,
it's starting to click.
I
think so.
Then it's going to be a situation, Ewan, where every player on that park is able to maintain that intensity for 90 minutes. And that, for me, I would look towards the second half of the season with more positivity and more confidence than in the first half, because I think we're starting to see it over the last few games.
Can you see us dropping many points between now and the end?
I don't.
No,
and a big part of that's the defence as well.
No, I don't want to overshoot for tonight, because tonight, Pittodrie, Aberdeen aren't playing great, but it's always a tough venue to go to. But if we play the way we can, score our chances, and we do that every game till the end of the season, I just can't. We've got the momentum now. We're purring on all cylinders, looking good, defensively solid. Teams don't even get a looking on at us. Joe Hart's barely got a safety making games now.
Carter Vickers wins everything in the air,
the whole balance of the team, from defence, goalkeeper, the out wide, to the middle, to the strikers, it's just all bang, coming good. And then loving it. I'm sure everyone must be loving it too, because it's great. You're talking about how before your pal from 30 years ago came in and stated the best football he's seen in such a long, long time.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I've, like you, been watching Celtic since the 80s. And there's been some wee periods we think, yes, but this right now, I know it's only early days, but if this keeps going, definitely, this is brilliant.
Oh, it's astonishing. And I'll tell you, we're going to run through the teams in a second, but there's some interesting points coming through here. You and Tony Daverin. If you weren't in the studio, you'd probably be in the comment section, chipping in yourself and having conversations with some of the familiar names. Thanks, everybody, for getting involved.
I know. I'm just one of the many guys who chat away, So, and it's funny. It's also saying like 15 names you'll see.
I know, but it's great,
and it's good banter. It's good chat.
It is actually, and there's a whole community being built over a period of time, Ewan, that exists within the comment section. And I was saying that to you before you came in. Some of the some of the actual streams, a 1 hour stream, we can get over 1,000. And that's not me blowing my own trumpet. The reason I'm saying it is I've got to apologise that I can't get through as many comments as I would like. I'm not ever ignoring anybody. Tony Davern comes in. Always loved that Umbro top, Ewan.
Well,
there's a reason you're wearing that tonight, though.
Yeah, it was just for Wim Jansen. This is the actual genuine top from that year. So it's actually a bit snug now.
It's a good fit.
Since then. But yeah, to Wim in 1998, top in the 10. That's that.
Absolutely. Now, I'm a big fan of football kits in general. And of course, anybody who's been watching the show over the last 5 years knows that within that time and beyond, I've been writing the book on the Celtic jerseys. So I've studied every single shirt since the 1930s onwards. And obviously, I've been doing the archive stuff from the earlier jerseys. And that one there, I think, was very much inspired by the 4-2 10 men won the league jersey, because you've got the white V insert on the collar, you've got the badge in the middle,
yep.
And of course, by then there was no sponsors or shading on the hoops and all the rest of it, but it's a more modern take on that old classic, and I think it's aged really well, and it fits you just fine, mate. Don't worry too much about that. We have another show on the channel called The State of Scottish Football, and within that show, there are a number of Aberdeen fans. So I try to keep up to speed with how Aberdeen are doing, how they're performing. I've been told that their best player in recent times has been Johnny Hayes. So, it might seem obvious because we thought he was so good that we went and bought him, but he is apparently their star performer at this moment in time. I'm going to run through quickly the Aberdeen team. There's quite a Celtic contingent in here. I've got to say Woods, McCrory and Gallagher. Gallagher's not played much really since signed from Motherwell. Scott Brown captains Aberdeen tonight. Ramirez, Bezugen, McGeoch, another ex-Celt, Hayes, Ferguson, Ramsey and Bates, with the substitutes Richie, McKenzie, Jet, Ojo, Jenks, Ruth, Barron, Kennedy and Milne. Now the Celtic side, obviously Montgomery being missing because that would be part of the deal to take him there on loan. You in Celtic side, Joe Hart in goals with Tony Ralston, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Carl Starfelt and Greg Taylor. You've got Callum McGregor captain in Celtic tonight, O'Reilly, Hatate, and we've got Abada, Jota and Maeda up top. So let's have a wee chat about some of the changes. We've touched on Ralston, but even if it's a knock or further down the line a suspension, you're quite confident Ralston can just fit in there and play that position and do a job tonight, aren't you?
I like about Ralston. He's a proper Celtic fan. You know what I mean? He takes no nonsense. And he's physical. And if any time a Celtic player gets like a bad injury or a bad tackle on him, he's the first guy. He's straight away. You get away. You know what I mean? And I love that about him. That he's got that passion, desire. Technically not as good as Juranovic, but he makes up for that with that kind of. He gets it. He's a Celtic man through and through. And I say, aye. So he'll be fine tonight. He'll do well.
Any update on Juranovic? Asks Sean F on YouTube. Unfortunately, not Sean. And I'm sure that he will be asked that at the end of the night by the press.
Yeah, I'm sure Angela.
We need a T-shirt, says Jan Nebraska. We need a T-shirt with Acsom, we don't stop. Don't think for a moment that hasn't crossed my mind, because yes, I think we could have that on the shop. If you are interested in Acsom merch, get yourself onto acsom.net. There was quite a few parcels sent out today. And that is the only thing we ask you to pay for is the merch. We don't ask you to pay for any of this content. So get yourself subscribing on YouTube if you enjoy it. The two centre-halves, as a partnership, have come under a bit of criticism throughout the season, Cameron Carter-Vickers and Starfelt. But they seem to have solidified. I mean, anybody who wants to criticise the Celtic defence just needs to look at the league table, the goals against you, and we've got the best record in Scotland.
Well, since that bad start when we lost the 3 games, since then, we were solid.
Yeah.
Or the odd individual mistake by Starfelt, but generally speaking, I mean, was it 13 goals we've conceded all season in the league? Mm-hmm. Thereabouts?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
That's excellent.
Yep.
And you've got that, the back line, like we were speaking about the spine, and you've got Joe Hart, the two centre-halves who I've just mentioned, in front of them McGregor, and when fully fit, in front of him, Kyogo.
Yep.
But the one player that you actually threw into that mix, and he's been left out tonight, was Tommy Rogic. You think he's that important? He's part of that spine?
I think this season he's been brilliant. I was saying to you as well, he's playing more as a number 8 rather than a 10. I think Andrew's got him playing a bit more further back, so he gets the ball more, he's more involved, and he's basically linking up a lot better. So tonight, it's a big miss because Roderick's got a good record at Pittodrie, you know, in the past. So hopefully, it's not one we regret, but I'm sure Riley will come in and do a good job.
Monty's asking if you're breathing in, you, and I think that's quite cheeky, Monty. He doesn't have to breathe in. He's in fine shape. He's in fine shape. And Ryan Taylor comments on your top as well. That was my first Celtic top, and to make everybody else feel old, Ryan was 7 that season, where we stopped the 10 or won the 1, depending on how you like to look at it. And Brian, here we go. It's the most positive Celtic fans have been for years, and the most united. We'll come back to that, Brian. It is the most positive when you think of what happened last year, and let's live in the moment, absolutely. But there is a wee question about what's happening on the weekend in relation to a park closure of a specific area of Celtic Park, and we'll come back to that at some point. We're happy with Cameron Carter-Vickers and Starfelt. And at left back, we've already mentioned Greg Taylor. I was lucky enough on a European trip to be able to observe for a spell the Celtic players and how they basically acted as a unit off the park. And what I took from that was Greg Taylor was extremely popular amongst his teammates, but he was a bit of a leader. I don't see that so much on the park, but off the park, he was a bit of a leader. You could see that he was in amongst just about everything. And, you know, I think that he's coming for a lot of criticism. There's been a post-Tierney element to that, absolutely. But he has now, for me, established himself as the first choice left back at Celtic. If we're looking at the midfield, McGregor, will he still have that mask on? Obviously, he has come out and spoke about the comments made by Chris Boyd. What did you make of that, Ewan? I've not had a chance to ask you.
Yeah, well, you just kind of, with Chris Boyd, you're not surprised. It's just a stupid thing to say. And I think McGregor said it. I think obviously Boyd's contacted McGregor to say, look, I didn't kind of mean it in that way. He used the wrong choice of words. Oh, Chris Boyd's just, I mean, I love the fact that on Sky now, like the game against Rangers, his face, you know, at half time, his face at full time. For me, I'm happy with that. So he can say his daft wee things, and I'm not very upset about it, you know. So yeah. The
thing with that, it brings quite a lot of things for me to the fore. A few circumstances that we have experienced in the not too distant past. So Michael Stewart, who, you know, I think he divides opinion. I actually rate him as one of the best pundits we've got in this country. That's just my opinion. And I think that Michael Stewart was sidelined by the BBC for making comments around the launch of a football jersey at Ibrox and the song that was used in the marketing campaign for that. And he was sidelined because they came under so much pressure by fans of Rangers. What Chris Boyd said, for me, was infinitely worse when compared to what Michael Stewart said.
Yeah.
And what he's talking about is endangering an opponent, endangering deliberately the career, the health, the physical health of a fellow professional.
Well, the fact that he talks about getting his mask, I mean, that's like saying an elbow in the face.
Give it a test, aye.
That's basically saying hurt him. It's not saying put a tackle in, you know, or try and be physical shoulder to shoulder. He's basically saying, oh, someone should have, you know, got in there, elbow up to his face and really hurt him. So he's an idiot.
See the big thing. See the big thing for me though, Ewan. What you want from a footballer, no matter what level they've played at, is a level of insight. So you've got some fantastic pundits who have never kicked a ball in anger, and they're brilliant pundits. And you've got some footballers who had great careers who are terrible. And all you want is a bit of insight. And I'm going to refer to Foster's comments in relation to some of the tackles that Celtic players have suffered this season. And in particular, the one at Alloa, right? And you're looking at the situation there and thinking, well, the comment that I heard was, when I was a young boy, this is what we got told. All right, so when you were 12 or 13, being coached by someone who wasn't qualified to coach you probably, and they're telling you to go right through a player, that still applies in the year 2022 in professional football.
Was that
That's
the guy
nonsense.
talking about the Ideguchi?
Yeah.
One. Saying it was Ideguchi's fault because he didn't go in hard enough.
I know.
That's incredible. I mean, and these guys are getting paid to give that opinion and tell.
Yeah. All you want is a bit of balance and some insight. Now, some of the Celtic-minded pundits, or those with a Celtic state of mind, they make it pretty clear. But I tell you what, they also criticise the club.
Mm-hmm.
They criticise Celtic when it's necessary as well. And I'm talking about guys like Chris Sutton, John Hartson. And
actually, it's only John Hartson and Chris Sutton. They're the two guys who actually speak up for Celtic.
Yeah.
Because you're all people like Andy Walker.
And others.
And others. I've got an agenda to kind of put the boot into Celtic. And that is what really gets me more than anything else.
Yeah.
You know?
Aye,
so Sutton and Hartson have been fantastic for Celtic. You know, being on the telly, you know, talking about the club. And as you say, if there's something wrong, they'll call it out. But at the same time, they won't kick the club.
For the sake of it.
For the sake of it, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If we move on from McGregor, there's only 4 minutes to go to kick off, actually, but we've got O'Reilly coming in. We spoke about that earlier on today and yesterday on the bulletins, coming in for Rogic. O'Reilly has been a revelation, maybe overshadowed by Hatate, but when you look at O'Reilly in isolation and the level that he was coming in from to play in all of these crunch games for Celtic, he's been absolutely tremendous value for money, you know, £1.6 million. How impressed have you been with O'Reilly?
He's brilliant. I mean, 21 years old, so composed. I mean, the 2 games, I mean, you told me your first 2 games to play for Celtic, away to Hearts, and then at home to against Rangers, and to perform the way he did. And he was flawless. Mm-hmm. I can't remember him making any mistakes. Can't remember him giving the ball away. But he was great.
He's so good on the ball.
Very good, very comfortable, composed. He's got the vision. He's got an eye for a good pass.
With pace.
He kind of looks very similar to the way Tom Rogic plays. Mm-hmm. You know, they're tall, with a bit of elegance about them. You know, brilliant. I mean, was there not a stats saying that he was like rated in stats down south as like the top player for that position?
Mm. But I think this is where the data analysis comes into play. I mean, I think Ange's made a few comments, one tongue-in-cheek, around the data. If you've got a good data team around you, they can tell you this player will fit your system, and here's all the stats to prove that. So it gets filtered into that process of signing the player, and the recruitment is all the better this season for it. Abada and Jota, right and left. Abada hitting the form of his Celtic career, Celtic career, through the middle. Maeda. Now, I'm not just saying this because people think I've got an agenda against Giakoumakis, but I did say that if there was to be a change today and not a forced one, I would have given Maeda a start over Giakoumakis. Now, obviously, what you've got on the bench there is if there's an issue or an injury or he's not on it, Maeda, you've got Giakoumakis. You know what he can do now. So I think that if you bring him on and you've got the balls coming left and right from Abada and Jota, you would have far more confidence now in Giakoumakis than maybe 4 or 5 games ago. Yeah. But do you think he's just being rested tonight by Ange?
I think it's, again, Ange likes to rotate. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean, not overuse players. So big Giakoumakis, he's played the last 3 or 4 games now. So I think he's probably thinking, right, give the boy a rest. We're obviously more dynamic and fluent with Maeda up there.
Yeah.
You know, running around. Hopefully, O'Reilly can play good balls through, Jota and Abada down the flanks. So I'm thinking we're probably going for swamp Aberdeen, get 2-3 goals up again in the first half hour. Touch wood. Mm-hmm. And then as you say, if things are not going great, or if they are going great, you can still rest, rotate, bring big Giakoumakis on second half.
We've seen that against Motherwell at half time. We made the change.
That's it.
Yeah, once the game is safe. Just a couple of ones before we go to the action topic. No, we don't have the rights, unfortunately. We can't do a dodgy and stream the match live like some people on YouTube. But we will be back for comment at half-time and full-time. The game is only available by paying $12.99 to Aberdeen TV. The equivalent of Celtic TV. I think it's called Red TV. I'm just going to have a look at that now. The kickoff is just about, Red TV. And I'm pretty sure there are other places that you can find it, although we wouldn't suggest, or you just have a look at the comments. I'm sure there'll be a few links kicking about on social media, etc. But enjoy the game. Fancy W thinks it's going to be 4-0 to the Celts. I hope it is. I'll take that. But let's go and join the action, and we will see you at halftime. Thanks everybody for getting involved, and thanks Ewan once again for joining me on a Celtic State of Mind.
Celtic.